What's up, everybody? Jake Fowler here with you for another solo episode of the show. Just got back from Key West, or Miami, Sunday the 19th. That's why this is coming a little bit late. Or Sunday the 18th. Technically, it was Monday the 19th because it was about midnight when I rolled up back in the bus. But for those of you who don't know, on Saturday, May 10th, I flew from Columbus to Miami. I spent the night there with some friends, Diego Ramos, Lauren Peterson, both of whom were involved in the Kayak and the Keys for Hope 2025. Diego paddler, Lauren was a photographer, or the photographer, or I guess the primary photographer. And stayed in Miami until Sunday the 18th. We picked up fellow paddlers Ryan and Lila Chafin. And then on Sunday, we drove from Miami to Key Largo, where we stayed the night. Then Monday the 12th, we finally put in the water and we kayaked 110 miles from Key Largo to Key West from Monday the 12th to Friday the 16th. And we spent a little bit of time in Key West, Saturday the 17th into Sunday the 18th. Sunday we drove back to Miami and I got dropped off at the airport, flew from Miami to Nashville, and then Nashville to Columbus. And like I said, I got in around midnight, talked to my wife until like 1 a.m., and then woke up at 4:45 a.m. so I could be to work at 5:45 on Monday morning. And it's Tuesday, May 20th. Recording this, it'll probably go up tonight, so it'll be available tonight, tomorrow. So this is about as fresh as I could make it. Yesterday, I just wanted to hang with the fam, so apologize that this pod is running a little late. But my goal for this episode is to just reflect on the experience while it's fresh, talk about all the highs, what was different from last year, talk about the fundraising goal, what we achieved, and what we still have yet to achieve, and we'll go from there. Now, I guess with regards to fundraising, we'll just kind of start there. The goal this year was $300,000 because last year we did over $250,000, and so we wanted to up the ante a little bit. We have until the end of the month, so it's May 20th right now. We have until May 31st to hit goal. Last year, I personally raised $10,008, and I am I have the same goal, and I am a little less than halfway there. So still quite a bit to go. This was a general challenge for the trip, is trying to figure out why fundraising isn't going, I don't want to say as well, but why we aren't hitting as high of highs as we were last year. And there could be a couple factors there, but alas, we have raised a lot of money. And hold on. And yeah, so we're at $212,989.76 out of $300,000. So not terrible. I'm sure we'll get even more in there. There's a good chance we still might beat last year's goal, which would be absolutely excellent. And let me see, where am I at right now? So I'm at $5,367.94. So not bad, obviously. Like $5,000 is still a lot of money, but I think this time last year I was at 9 something. Like I was way ahead. I might have been 8.5, 8.9, something like that, close to 9. So a little disappointing, but we're going to get there. We're going to get there for sure. So that's partially what this podcast is doing. Again, if you're listening to this, I highly, highly, highly encourage you to donate. I've got some stories that I'll tell you that hopefully might encourage you to consider donating. At the very least, sharing this stuff. It costs $0 to share and $0 to spread the word. So just keep that in mind while you're listening to this. So one of the things I'm going to be doing to help fundraise going forward is on Thursday of this week, myself and one of the other paddlers by the name of Keith Costello, we're going to be doing a pull-up challenge. And we only agreed to do this on the last day, Friday, because when we were waiting around to kayak the last mile, and I'll talk about that later, it somehow came up. Someone asked me how many pull-ups I could do, and I told them that my best was 30, which is a lot of pull-ups. I'm not going to lie. And, I feel very confident that I would get at least 25 if I were to do some pull-ups right now. But Keith, he does CrossFit. He's also a CEO of a bank, locality bank in Florida. They're super big into local banking and helping local businesses out. So Keith's an awesome guy, and he's super in shape. And when he learned that, he was like, oh my gosh, we got to do a pull-up contest, but I have to do 2 for every 1 that he does. And we're going to be doing that live on LinkedIn this Thursday. So if you haven't connected with me on LinkedIn, definitely do so. So you can see this pull-up challenge that we're going to have going on. But I'm really excited about it. I think that's a fun way to raise some money and get after it with a fellow paddler post-paddling. So connect with me on LinkedIn, shoot me an invite to connect, and I'll accept. And you can check out the pull-up challenge this Thursday, starting at 7 a.m. It'll probably be posted so you can watch it after, but if you want to wake up and watch it, that would be cash money, baby. Like I said, I'm 53% to goal, so really need your help donating, at the very least sharing. It's weird because last year I was still working at Orange Theory, so I was announcing to all of my classes before the trip even happened, saying, hey, this is going on, blah, 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 blah. I need your help. And I had such a larger group of people to pull from, even if they didn't donate that much. I had like 100 people donate last year. So that was really awesome because I was able to spread the word and hit goal. This year, I had all the list of people who donated, and I've been reaching out to them via email or text or phone call. And it's obviously not as powerful as hearing the message multiple times in person, because some people might have heard me talk about it like 6 times before they're like, oh, that's coming up. Okay, I'm going to donate. They waited until it was a little bit closer. So that was one of the struggles this year, and I think was one of the reasons why it's been a little bit slower to goal. But hey, what's cool this year is that it's forcing me to get a little bit more out of my comfort zone and actually reach out and make the calls, because it's always awkward. Guys, I get it. I get why it's tough to share, and I understand the awkwardness behind me asking you to ask other people to help me out. Oh, hey, can you donate? My buddy Jake, or this guy whose podcast I listen to, he's raising money for pediatric cancer research. It's a really good cause. I get how awkward that is, seriously. But at the end of the day, who gives a shit how awkward it is? Who cares how you feel when you're asking money for pediatric cancer research? It's, if you don't have the money, I get it. There's been plenty of times I don't have that much money. I have almost no money to spend on other things. I've got a mortgage. I've got a kid. I'm making less money than I was this time last year. So I get it. Life happens. Okay. I completely understand. That being said, are you going to go on a date this month? What if you talked to the person you're with and you said, hey, whatever we were going to spend on a date, what if we donate that instead? It's that simple. And then you guys can have a night in and play some board games or whatever. Make a small sacrifice one day out of the year and help a brother out. That's all I'm saying. That is my call to action to you. Skip the date, donate what you would spend, and go on the date next month, and instead just stay in, play board games, watch a movie, whatever. Put your phone down, hang out with each other. That's my suggestion to you. Instead of going out and spending money, just have a nice night in and donate what you would have spent to my page. Please, for the love of God. Anyway, enough of that. Let's kind of talk about some highlights of the trip. So like I said, we put out on the water Monday the 12th from Key Largo, and it was just so magical. The highlight for me isn't necessarily a particular experience that I had. It's just the fact that the camaraderie from the previous year carried into this year, and we were able to build on the relationships from last year. So there was just a great sense of ease with everyone. The jokes were flying. Everyone was roasting everyone in the most positive, endearing way possible. That can only be done by people who love and care for each other. When you first meet someone, the humor can be a little bit delayed. Oh, how's this person going to take it? Are they going to get my sense of humor? There was none of that this year, so we were able to just enjoy each other's company and kind of go on a roast fest, and it was just a roast fest the whole time, and that is my love language. So anyway, we put out from Key Largo at a place called Florida Bay Outfitters, and it was around 6:45 a.m. And for the first third, so we did, 26 miles that day? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's 26 miles that day, something like that. Because it's 110 miles in total. It's like 20, yeah, it's 26. We'll just say 26. And for the first third, it was raining pretty good. And I kind of liked it. I got a little chilly at a certain point. I didn't expect to be cold in the Florida Keys, but wind's blowing a little bit, rain's coming down. There was one point where the water got so bad that we had to stop in these mangroves before crossing, because you could just see the current moving across where we were trying to cross. And luckily we waited it out. After like 15, 20 minutes, we were able to get where we needed to go. But when you first put out, you're going for about 7 miles or so. It's pretty hardcore. And then you go for another 7, 8 miles after that. And, we're resting about 45 minutes to an hour when we stop, maybe 30 to an hour. And we've got these subs from Publix. It's a grocery store from the South for you Ohio listeners, that we get to eat on the water every day. And we bring granola bars. We bring Uncrustables. That's one of the main staples of the diet. When you're a paddler, you're just munching on Uncrustables. You got a little bit of everything in there. So that's a lot of fun. And, we get to stop. The first place we stop is called Oasis in the Ocean. And then we stop at this place called Toilet Seat Cut. And it's literally a channel for boats to enter that is lined by toilet seats on either side. And we're just chilling on the right side of Toilet Seat Cut. So that's pretty cool. And then we stop at a place called Postcard Inn. It's pretty chill. And then we make our way to where we stay on Tuesday night, which is in Isla Mirada, however you say it. And from there, we put out from La Siesta Resort, and we just do a 3-mile kayak to a place called Robbie's. We eat a little bit of breakfast, make any adjustments or any plans, take some photos, and then we do another quick paddle, another 3 miles to a place called White Marlin Beach for a nice 1 hour break. Beautiful beach, nice little stop there. And then we're going about 6 miles, more or less, and we took like a quick break where we just get out and stretch. And the thing about the second day is it's probably the worst day in terms of feeling, because the first day is the longest day, Monday. And then you just have to do it again. And that's sort of where you feel peak uncomfortableness. Not to say that something couldn't happen later on one of the other days where you do feel like shit or something happens. But in terms of just general fatigue, it sort of peaks on Tuesday, because that's the second longest day and you're still adjusting to paddling. We finish the paddle in a place called Grassy Key on Tuesday night and stay the night there. We have a super awesome dinner. There's a beautiful view of the ocean at the place we're staying at in Grassy Key, and just a great bonding experience for the paddlers and the road crew. Shout out road crew. Uh, and yeah, so we stay there, and then on day 3, we go all the way from Grassy Key to Bahia Honda. So go from Grassy Flats, that's where we start. Put out still pretty early. And then this is our longest stretch at this point. It's 10 miles. So you're going 10 miles straight to a place called Sombrero Beach. And it's actually a really nice paddle. You sort of go around and then into this little area where there's like some mangroves and then some homes and some docks and some boats. And from there, you like cut across this bay and then around the corner into Sombrero Beach, and super nice beach. And there's this little outhouse, more or less. That's not an outhouse, but on deck. It's not awning. It's not deck. You're out there, and there's a covering. and anyways, nice little breakfast there. And then there's what's called the 7 Mile Bridge. And we paddle, it's about 6.5 miles. So you leave Sombrero, you go around, you hit the 7 Mile Bridge, and we paddle to this place called Molasses Key. And Molasses Key is just this spit of land. It's actually 2 tiny little islands, and they're super small. Think about the place where Jack Sparrow gets stranded in the first movie with a pistol and just one shot. It's like that, but way smaller, because that was like an actual island and there was like beaches and stuff. This is just like a spit of land. It's super small. And we're just chilling in clear 2-foot high, blue as can be water from the Keys. And the Keys are basically just the Bahamas in the States. It's so beautiful. It's straight up Caribbean waters, and it's one of the best stops. And then from there, it's just like 4 miles to where we finish for the day. We finish at a park ranger station, Bahia Honda State Park, and the rangers let us leave our kayaks there. We get driven to our hotel, stay the night, and day 4 we go from Bahia Honda to Sugarloaf, and we start with a longer stretch again, about 10 miles, maybe a little bit less, 9.5 or so. And we go to a place called Picnic Island, which is my personal favorite spot. It's a little bit bigger than Molasses Key. There's a little bit of a beach. And what makes it so awesome is there's a couple trees with signs on them. And it's the signs that say, Lexington, Kentucky, 1,000 miles away, or XYZ, 500 miles away, or, whatever. And so there's all these different signs that it's really cool. And there's a fake skeleton hung up in a tree. And so it's just a little bit more vibey. It's sort of that Tortuga, like Pirate's Life sort of vibe. And, that's just a lot more speed. And we're there for a long time. And it's just so absolutely beautiful. When we finish the Thursday paddle, we go through these canals, through these houses, and end up at a house. And the house belongs to the mother of my friend Diego's mom. So my friend Diego's mom has one of her best friends. It's her mom's house. And it's just this immaculate house with, pool, hot tub, all that jazz, and plenty of rooms for the paddlers and the road crew to stay at. But we have a fundraising dinner there. So the neighborhood is invited over, and some of the families of the kids who have pediatric cancer are there. And we do a little fundraising dinner. Oscar, founder of Sebastian Strong, gives a lovely speech. And we just get to socialize with the folks of Sugarloaf and spread the word and try and do some fundraising. And it's a beautiful night, beautiful place to stay. There's a shower at the top of this house outside. And I showered there before bed, and you're maybe, I don't know, 25, 30 feet up, and it's open. And so you look up and it's just the stars, so many stars that you can see. And it cleansed my soul. Not only did I clean my body, but I cleaned my soul that night. And then it's already the last day, and we go from Sugarloaf to Key West. It's like 16 miles or so, and you don't really stop. You basically kayak like 7.5 miles. I did get out of my boat, but I like sat on top of it and did a little bit of stretching. And then you kayak basically another 7.5. We park at this little spot, and we're with, I think there were 11 or 12 families. So you got husbands and wives, the parents of these kids who are either going through treatment, have gone through treatment, are in remission, various stages of having pediatric cancer or have had pediatric cancer. And, we hang out with all of them, and then we get everyone, all the kids, and like one of their supervisors, one of their parents or guardians, and we take them all on the last mile, and we finish at this yacht club 1 mile away to round out the 110 miles. And it's unbeatable because, you're on this long voyage where you have a very simple objective, point A to point B. And you're very much focused on the task and trying to get there. And you're also reflecting on your own life because there's a lot of time on the water, and it's very meditative because it's the same sort of motion with your body. A few times I even caught myself nodding off while I was paddling. And you're reflecting on life. You're thinking about the people you love. You're thinking about the people you've lost. And, maybe you're thinking about how bad your low back hurts from being in the kayak for a long time, or how bad your butt hurts, how cramped you are, how hot you are, how thirsty you are, whatever. There's a lot of things you could be thinking about. But man, you get to the end and you do the last mile with those kids, and these kids have suffered more than most. And some of them are 5 years old, 7 years old, 13 years old, and they've got these big old smiles on their faces. And you just all that quote unquote suffering that you go through when you're paddling through the Keys, and I use the word suffering very loosely because it sucks and it's challenging. Well, it doesn't suck. It's part of it sucks, but you're also in the middle of paradise. You know what I mean? So there's sort of that duality there. But anyways, any sort of suffering you thought you were going through, any sort of discomfort, any sort of bullshit that's going on in your life, just immediately goes out the door when you see these kids who have every right to be bitter and resentful, just with big old smiles on their faces because they're in the middle of the Florida Keys with their family, and these paddlers are coming in doing something for them, and it's all about just them having a good time. We get to the yacht club after kayaking, and we have a pool party with the kids, and we're playing Marco Polo, we're playing games with them, and they're just having the time of their lives. And it just is such a perspective shift. And I knew it was coming. This is my second year, so I knew going into it that this was going to happen, that we were going to get there, and I was going to have this feeling. But even knowing and having experienced it, it still sort of catches you off guard, and it's a very positive reality check. And it just ties you even closer to the mission and makes you that much more determined to be a part of the cause and to do your best to raise money and spread awareness so that these kids can have less toxic, better treatments in the future. Because a lot of times what happens is these kids either get cancer again, but a different kind of cancer due to the toxicity of the treatment, or they get some other sort of illness, or the treatment just takes them out completely. And that's what happened to Sebastian, of whom the organization is named after. And so it's just, and that's because a lot of the time they're using treatments meant for adults, and the kids just can't handle it, and it might kill the cancer, but it just knocks out their immune system or causes a different form of cancer, or it just takes them out. And we can do better. And so that's what we're doing. And so yeah, so that was sort of the loose itinerary, and sort of the best way I can describe what it's like at the end to be with these families and these kids who are just beyond grateful, and sharing their joy. And they're super grateful for us for more or less being the face of the organization, at least for this specific event. Very specifically this event, because there's plenty of other events that Sebastian Strong does that I'm not a part of, and that some of the other paddlers are not a part of. But regardless, they're just so appreciative of us, and the admiration that you feel for these people is just, how do they do it? How do they get up? And, they're laughing, they're having a good time, they're joking. You look at these folks and you really can't even tell what's going on, but they're bearing the heaviest of burdens, and they're doing so gracefully. And there's just no excuse for anyone not going through that. And at least that's how I feel about it. So anyways, I touched on the camaraderie and how awesome it was this year. There were some new folks, at least for me, that I hadn't met before, who were not on the kayak last year, but who had, some of them had been involved previously. And one of the guys was totally new. And so the new guy, he was the videographer. This dude is a freaking legend. Name is Lorenzo. And he just turned 19 years old the other day, literally on Sunday. And he's got his own business where he produces content for a variety of different clients. He's got his own editors. He's like one of the most entrepreneurial guys I've ever met. And he's barely 19, started doing just beyond impressive stuff at like age 13, 14. And I'm going to see if I can get him to come on, because some of the stuff he was talking about was just next level. And he knows I have a pod, and he was giving me pro tips, which was awesome. But yeah, shout out Lorenzo. There was an artist who came with us who had done the kayak before, but I think had done it from Miami, because before Sebastian Strong did the kayak in the Keys for Hope, some of the folks did a different kayak where they went from Miami to Key West. So just a stupid amount of distance. And his name was Alex Mijares. Most of the time he goes by Mijares. Had a nickname of Cheese, but it was my first time meeting him, and he's a super duper successful artist from Miami who, says exactly what he wants and is unapologetic in how he talks, and definitely brought a colorful dynamic to the group. And, he had me laughing really hard some of the time. So it was cool to get to know him. And then one of Sebastian's oldest friends, a multi-generational family friend, because Sebastian's grandma and her grandma were BFFs in Cuba. Daniela, she is next level, awesome, super smart, super quick, and she can throw down with the dudes, no problem, and fire it back at you. And it was cool to become friends with her, and I look forward to seeing her again sometime. Woof, that's an inside joke. Anyways, and she was also in the, if you follow Sebastian Strong on Instagram, which you should, if you're not, stop, go do it. Go follow them on Instagram. They put out a video where they caught up with Sebastian's friends 9 years later, and she was one of the lovely ladies who was in that video. And anyways, She's incredible. The caliber of people who are involved in this organization, it really inspires you to just also want to be on your best, on, making sure that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing at home, at work, in any sort of endeavor. We've got like 3 different bank CEOs kayaking for various days. My buddy Diego, who's been on the pod twice, Sebastian's best friend from back in the day, just an absolute beast of a human being, just an unmatchable work ethic and stoicism for a 25-year-old. Ryan, who is just such a great guy and has the same birthday as Sebastian, and he credits me for being very positive, but he is also super positive and really just wants people to feel comfortable around him and is super caring. His wife Lila is just an absolute delight. Lauren is the reason I'm involved in this organization, because I was her coworker first at Orange Theory. Her and I have like a twin telepathy, and she loves to make fun of me. I love to make fun of her. And she's also just an incredibly talented and skilled photographer. And, there's obviously I talked about Lorenzo and all the folks that were new to me this year. The road crew, Jasmine, and James. I mean, look, listen, these are just all super high caliber individuals who give a shit and are good at what they do. And then there's Rosie and Oscar Ortiz, founders of the organization, Sebastian's parents. One of my highlights of the trip was getting to know Rosie more this year. It was so fun. She's an absolute delight, so funny, and just a very animated personality. And Oscar's humor and directness and ability to speak his mind is just so commendable. And I have so much respect and admiration for the both of them. So, it was great. And what was also great about this year, like I said, is I knew what to expect. I think that made it go by quicker because I knew what was coming. Sort of like when you drive somewhere, it seems longer than when you drive back. At least I think so. And so I think because I had done this whole journey before, I remembered a lot more of the routes. Not to say I could have just blindly led us there, but everything was super duper familiar. And I think that helped it. I think that made it go by quicker. That being said, I was less focused on getting from point A to point B this year and more or less just content with being in the moment. Because even though I went by faster this year, it did still go by fast last year. And I knew that. And so I tried to be as present as possible and just as grateful as I possibly could while paddling and just being out in the middle of paradise. That was just such a treat and really an embarrassment of riches that, I got to be a part of this for a second year. The weather was also amazing. We had the best water that we've had. I know I said it was rainy on the first day and the water was crazy for a period of time. And there was a little bit of rain Tuesday morning as well. But for the most part, we had very little headwind and the water was smooth as glass, which is rare. And so we were also blessed with the best weather. I think this was Diego's fifth year they've done it. And so I think it's the best in 5 years or 5 or 6 years. So, I mean, we just got super duper lucky. And I think because of that, I started to fall more in love with the Florida Keys and also with Miami. Not to say I've explored very little of Miami. So I'm talking about Miami Springs, and I drove through a couple other parts, just barely, but that doesn't count. Let me rephrase. I fell in love with Miami Springs even more. I'm aware of some of the other areas around there. I just haven't gotten to go through them. But Miami Springs is just a treasure of a little town. And the Cuban joint Bella's that's there is so good. I got to go there last year, and this year we got to go back. And anytime I try something new, it just makes me fall more in love with Cuban food. in general. And I already am a big fan of Hispanic cuisine. Just, I was thinking about the other day, I've spent 7 weeks in Mexico, 6 in Puerto Vallarta, 1 in Cancun, and 11 days in Costa Rica. So I've spent a decent, months of my life, I will say 3-ish, 2.5, 3-ish months, in those areas. And in Costa Rica, it was an ecotourism trip. And so we were backpacking through the jungle and staying at these little homesteads and eating food right off of the farm. And so everything was grown like right there. So it was just like as Costa Rican as the cuisine could get, like straight off the land. And so, I like Mexican food, all that. And so it's been fun getting to know the Cuban food through Miami. And there's also obviously a lot of Cuban food in the Keys just because Cuba is like 3 seconds away. And yeah, the first time I went to the Key West was for my buddy Alex's bachelor party. And so we were just getting crazy and crunk on Duval Street and didn't really get to explore around too much. But now, having done the trip for 2 years, spending 5 days on the water, I really feel like I am getting to know a little like the nooks and crannies. And we also drive through all of it on the way back. We drive from Key West back to Miami on that Sunday, and you get to see a lot of the stuff that you've seen already because of when you stay. But it just provides another context. And I just, even in like the beachy parts of North Carolina, like I love just the sort of pirate-esque Jimmy Buffett beach aesthetic that comes with these super beachy towns. It's so my speed, and it's like a mixture of laid back with adventure, and it's just the perfect sort of outdoor leisure experience. And so I really felt a bond grow between Miami Springs and all the Keys that we got to visit on this trip. I felt it grow stronger here in year 2. And so overall, just super positive there. Going into the trip is something I had been thinking about for the past 5-6 months. And I'm sure I've mentioned it in other episodes. I know I said the past 5 to 6 months, but when my wife and I moved back from Chapel Hill, North Carolina in June of 2023, our lives basically just shifted in the turbo because Tay was pregnant and we ended up moving apartments multiple times, and I helped multiple friends move as well. And what I was going to do for work was somewhat up in the air, and I ended up sticking with Orange Theory and then becoming head coach again, all while house hunting. Then we bought a house, and then June was born 2 weeks later. And then, my wife's parents were helping us fix up our Airbnb portion of the property. And then we launched that, but not before. And we launched the Airbnb right before I did the kayaking, the Keys to the Hope for the first year, raised $10,000. And then I was going for a promotion, which ended up not working out. And then I was job searching, and then I switched jobs, and then Tay's pregnant again, and trained for the pump and run, and placed second in the pump and run, and I'm still working on the ebook, and I've been doing the podcast the whole time. So all these things, blah 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 blah. And so basically once I started training for the pump and run and building the ebook at the same time, which was smart, I don't regret doing that. But it basically in February or January, I was really job searching hard and training for the pump and run and going to work. And then I also became a certified pharmaceutical salesperson, which I don't sell pharmaceuticals. That's not what I do. But I wasn't sure if I wanted to go a more salesy route because there was a little bit of sales overlap with my Orange Theory head coach role. And so just to make myself more marketable and open up another door for myself, I got a certification in doing that. So just between studying for that, job searching, and training for the pump and run, and then also having a day job and being a dad, I just felt like I was pulled in so many directions. And then when I finished the pump and run, which was after I left Orange Theory, I had a lot more free time. And I felt like I did a poor job figuring out what was important versus what is urgent. And that's something me and some of my buddies, the Balls Deep Boys, which if you don't know who they are, go watch episode 10. But that's something that we talk about specifically. My buddy Dan Hopwood, who also has his own episode on the show. And I feel like I did a poor job of separating out what is important versus what is urgent. What I mean by that is sometimes things present themselves that are really important and that do need to get done, but aren't necessarily urgent. They can be analyzed and then prioritized, but they don't have to be started immediately. And what I have been doing recently is as soon as I find something that is important, I start doing it, but then I ended up having like 5 partially started but unfinished things going on. And then I feel like a crazy person because none of it's getting done. I'm feeling like a moron. And that was starting to happen. And then the fundraising for this started ramping up. And then the job I switched to from Orange Theory ended up being a scam. And then so I got another job, which is now definitely not a scam, and it's got good benefits and all that. But there's just been so much happening. And I started to realize like maybe 2 weeks before the paddle that I really just need to pick a thing and do it. Like, how long have I been saying that this ebook is almost done? And it is. It's like the ebook itself might actually be done. I'll have to check. It's the tracker, and I'm making sure the tracker lines up with the ebook. That's where I was. That's where I left off. But basically, when it became time to fundraise, I said, okay, screw everything else, focus on fundraising. And I'm going to do that until I hit goal or until May 31st. So for 11 more days, that's what the fuck is going on. It's just that. Now, if, for example, I exhaust every possible fundraising opportunity in a day and I still have some work time left over, maybe I'll do something else. But odds are I can just call other people, or, I've started reaching out to some news networks. Hopefully some folks and some local news will pick up on what we were just doing in the Keys and run with that. And maybe they'll retweet or post it or do an announcement or a radio show or something. But anyways, I'm not going to stop until that is achieved, either goal or fundraising ends. And then it's finish the ebook. And then it's acquire personal clientele. And so instead of trying to do it all at once, trying to do one thing at a time, because the ebook will help promote myself. Not only is it something people can purchase, but it's a marketing tool for myself. So I'm getting better at being my own employee and juggling the things. And it just is taking focus. And so being able to prioritize and execute and recognize what is urgent versus important, that is the character arc. And that is what we are trying to get better at and execute on right now. And I was thinking a lot about that while on the water, that and how much I miss my wife and kids and kid with another one on the way. The only thing that could have made this weekend better, or this trip better, is if I was able to see my wife and kids. But that's neither here nor there. We're going to try and get them down at least for the weekend portion, Friday, Saturday, maybe next year, because I think that should be doable. And maybe we'll bring my sister or my mother-in-law so they can have some fun with us. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. That's just me thinking out loud. All that to say, this trip has been just an absolute blessing. I don't know what I did to deserve this. I just got lucky and met the right people. And, fortunately or unfortunately, it's that's just a lot of life. Sometimes random stuff happens and people are put in your life and sparks fly, and you just make the most of the relationship. And if you're lucky, not only will you become lifelong friends, but you'll get to accomplish great things together. And there's really nothing more rewarding than doing things worthwhile with people worth doing them with. And that's what I got to do last week. We're still doing that right now, even though we're not together. And it's just been an absolute blessing, and I am beyond grateful for the experience. With that being said, make sure I cross all my I's and cross all my T's and dot my I's, pardon me. I will ask everyone one more time who's listening to this or watching this, however you're consuming this content, if you haven't donated and you are able to donate $10, $30, whatever, please find a link. I've posted a million times on Facebook. It's on my Linktree bio and Instagram, both my personal and the Fowler and Friends. Just click on the Linktree, click on the Kayaking Keys for Hope, and donate. Go to my Facebook and donate. Whatever. If you are so strapped for cash, or maybe there's another cause and you've already donated to that cause, because pediatric cancer research is not the only cause out there. Maybe you're committed to something else. If that's the case, please share. Send to your mom and dad. Send to your siblings. Send to the friends who you know will answer the call. I know it's awkward. I know it can be weird. And you feel bad asking your friends for money. I understand. But it has to be done. The NIH funding, this is not a political statement. I can't even begin to tell you how not political statement this is. It is an objective fact that the NIH funding, National Institute for Health, let me make sure I got that right. Yep, National Institutes of Health, not for health. Their funding has been cut drastically, and that makes what we have been doing for the organization, when I say we, not just everyone who is in the organization or a part of the event, but everyone who now knows this information. Because unfortunately, it's actually fortunate, but you can't unknow what you know. So you have the info. You can either choose to act on it or not. And like I said, maybe there's another cause you're involved in. Maybe you don't have 2 cents to rub together outside of what it takes to pay for your bills. I get that as well. I promise you. I really do. Then share the message. Share the message. Be a part of the solution. There are kids who need your help, and they are not getting the help that they did from the government. That being said, organizations that were typically involved in getting funding from the government are now reaching out to Sebastian Strong. And so this is good in that we are able to provide said funding. It's basically startup funding, and then they'll get funding elsewhere. But we need more money to do that. Like I said, our goal for this trip was $300,000. Typically there's the word million is involved in those numbers. And so what we do matters more, and your shares, your donations matter more than they ever have previously. And so please, 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 if you can donate, do so. If not, then share, because you are needed, and your $10 donation, your share will make a difference, even if it's just educational. Even if you share this and someone else now knows about it, they can't unknow it. So that's all I have to say about that. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and sign off. We got some cool guests in the pipeline. I did get Lauren to commit to do a podcast on her photography, so we'll get that going. My sister-in-law has wrote a poem, and I know I've been talking about, or has been published as a poet. So she has a poetry book. Correction. Thank you. So we'll get her on here. I know I've been promising the Lego podcast for a while. We'll build Spider-Man Legos and do all that. So it'll be dope. Thank you all. If you haven't subscribed to YouTube, subscribe to YouTube. If you haven't subscribed to my Spotify, subscribe to my Spotify. If you haven't followed the Fowler and Friends Insta or Facebook page, please do those things. We're trying to grow the channels, and I'll probably get a TikTok here as much as I hate it, because Lauren also made a very good case for why I should, and so did my buddy Dan. And basically, if I want to grow the channel, I've got to be using the TikTok, which I've never had before. So TikToks are coming. What kind or why or how, I don't know, but stay tuned. I appreciate y'all. Much love. Signing off. Later.